AP World History. Topic 1.3 Developments in South and Southeast Asia. Essential question: how did various beliefs and practices in South and Southeast Asia affect society and the development of states? This is Angkor Wat in present-day Cambodia. It is a timeless marvel of Khmer architecture and spiritual grandeur and shows the influence of both Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia. How did various beliefs and practices in South and Southeast Asia affect society and culture? During the period from 1200 to 1450 in South and Southeast Asia, various beliefs and practices had significant impacts on the cultural development of the regions. Hinduism and Islam played crucial roles in shaping the cultures of South Asia, while Hinduism and Buddhism had profound influences in Southeast Asia. The differences between Hinduism and Islam also had significant effects on the cultures of South Asia. Additionally, the influence of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam extended to Southeast Asia. Let's explore these topics in more detail. Hinduism in South Asia. Hinduism played a central role in shaping the cultural fabric of South Asia during this period. It influenced art, architecture, literature, music, dance, and philosophy in the region. Hindu religious texts, such as the Vedas and the epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, provided moral and ethical guidance and inspired creative expressions. Islam in South Asia. Islam began to spread in South Asia during the 13th century, primarily through Sufi saints and later through the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire. Islamic traditions and practices, such as the 5 pillars of Islam, influenced the cultural landscape of the region. The syncretic traditions of Bhakti and Sufism emerged, blending elements of Hinduism and Islam and fostering cultural exchanges. Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia. Hinduism had a significant influence on the cultures of Southeast Asia, particularly through Indian merchants and traders. Hindu mythology, art, and architecture influenced the kingdoms of the region, such as the Khmer Empire, present-day Cambodia. Buddhism, originating in India, also spread to Southeast Asia during this period and left its imprint on the cultural practices and artistic expressions of kingdoms like Srivijaya and Majapahit. Differences between Hinduism and Islam. Hinduism is a polytheistic religion that encompasses a vast array of gods and goddesses, while Islam is a monotheistic religion centered around the worship of Allah. The contrasting beliefs and practices of Hinduism and Islam resulted in distinct cultural identities and traditions in South Asia. The differences between the two religions often led to tensions and conflicts between their adherents, particularly during periods of political upheaval. Influence of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam in Southeast Asia. Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam influenced the cultural practices, art, architecture, and religious beliefs of Southeast Asian societies. Hindu-Buddhist temples and Islamic mosques stand as testimonies to the cultural syncretism in the region, such as the temple complexes of Angkor Wat and Angkor Thom in present-day Cambodia, which blend both Buddhist and Hindu traditions. The adoption and adaptation of these religions resulted in the creation of unique Southeast Asian cultural expressions. How did various beliefs and practices in South and Southeast Asia affect the development of states and economies? During the period from 1200 to 1450 in South and Southeast Asia, various beliefs and practices had significant impacts on the development of politics and economies in the regions. Hinduism and Islam played crucial roles in shaping the political and economic landscapes of South Asia, while Hinduism and Buddhism influenced Southeast Asia. Hinduism in South Asia. Political development. Hinduism influenced the political structures of South Asian kingdoms. The caste system, deeply rooted in Hindu society, influenced the hierarchical structure of political power. Kings and rulers derived their authority from the support and endorsement of religious figures, particularly Brahmins. Economic development. Hinduism's emphasis on the concept of dharma, duty, influenced economic activities. Economic transactions and trade were governed by the principles of fairness, ethics, and duty. Temples served as centers of economic activities, fostering trade and exchange. Islam in South Asia. Political development. the spread of Islam in South Asia through the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire led to significant political changes. Muslim rulers established new administrative systems and legal codes based on Islamic principles. Muslim political entities introduced centralization of power and a system of governance that blended Islamic and local traditions. Economic development. The establishment of Muslim political entities facilitated trade and economic exchanges with the broader Islamic world. Muslim rulers encouraged commerce, which led to the growth of cities and urban centers. The construction of markets and trade routes promoted economic prosperity and cultural exchanges. Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia. Political development. The spread of Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia influenced the political structures of kingdoms such as Srivijaya and Majapahit. Hindu and Buddhist ideas of kingship and governance were incorporated into the ruling systems of these kingdoms. The construction of Hindu and Buddhist temples symbolized royal patronage and political legitimacy. Economic development. Hindu and Buddhist ideas influenced economic practices in Southeast Asia. Trade and commerce thrived, facilitated by maritime networks and Indian merchant communities. The establishment of port cities and the growth of trade routes contributed to economic growth and the emergence of cosmopolitan societies. The role of merchants was instrumental in facilitating the political and cultural effects of various beliefs and practices. Facilitating cultural exchange. Indian merchants and traders. Indian merchants and traders played a crucial role in disseminating Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islamic ideas and practices. They traveled extensively, establishing trade networks and engaging in commercial activities. Through their interactions with local communities, they introduced new religious beliefs, cultural practices, architectural styles, and artistic expressions. Cultural transmission. Merchants served as conduits for the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and cultural artifacts between different regions. They brought with them religious texts, sculptures, paintings, and other cultural artifacts, disseminating them to distant lands. This cultural transmission influenced the development of local art, architecture, literature, and religious practices. Fostering economic growth. Trade networks. Merchants played a vital role in expanding trade networks, both overland and maritime. They established commercial routes and facilitated the exchange of goods, technologies, and ideas. Trade routes, such as the Silk Road and the maritime routes of the Indian Ocean, connected different regions, stimulating economic growth and cultural interactions. Urbanization and prosperity. The activities of merchants contributed to the growth of cities and urban centers. As trade flourished, port cities and market towns emerged as hubs of economic activity and cultural diversity. Urbanization brought prosperity as merchants created markets, established commercial infrastructure, and facilitated the growth of local industries. Political connections. Patronage and influence. Wealthy merchants often enjoyed significant influence and patronage from rulers and elites. They supported and funded the construction of temples, mosques, and other religious and cultural institutions. Merchants' financial contributions earned them social prestige and political favor, allowing them to shape the cultural and political landscapes of the regions. Diplomatic relations. Merchants played a role in diplomatic interactions between different kingdoms and empires. They acted as intermediaries, negotiating trade agreements, treaties, and alliances between rulers. Through their involvement in regional politics, merchants fostered diplomatic ties and promoted cultural exchanges. And that should be everything you need to know in order to answer the question, how did various beliefs and practices in South and Southeast Asia affect society and the development of states?